Ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all. In the headlines of international news, a major diplomatic incident has just occurred between Sweden and Russia. The Russian embassy in Sweden was targeted by a drone. But what the drone did to the embassy, you can't imagine. Yes, and you know that Sweden is this state. Huh? Which joined NATO very recently, just at the beginning of the conflict. Russian-Ukrainian, therefore, now a member of NATO, but which continues its diplomatic collaboration with Russia, and therefore the diplomatic mission of Russia in Sweden was targeted. So we already know that tensions are very high between Sweden and Russia through the comments that are made between the various diplomats. Nothing's okay. We also know in the past what Russia's position was towards Sweden in relation to its membership in NATO. And here the Russian embassy in Sweden was targeted by a drone that is at the base. So what are the Swedish authorities saying in this video conference? Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are going to talk about. But before we continue, I humbly ask you to share the video conference as much as possible. It should be shared in every possible group. Put a lot of like. Do not forget to leave your different opinions in comments. Let's go into the depths. This is a drone attack on the Russian embassy in Sweden. So the Russian embassy in Stockholm was targeted. It's not by mistake or not, it was targeted and therefore a drone flew over. Here are the facts. A drone flew over the diplomatic mission. The drone didn't just fly over. The drone dropped a plastic bag. I'm taking it back. The drone dropped a plastic bag that had paint in it, so they punctured the paint on the thing. It's what message? What message is it? Who's behind this? Who sent the targeted drone? And what are we gonna call it, huh? The Russian diplomatic mission in Sweden and the paint that was dropped, the plastic bag containing the paint that was dropped. What is the message behind the painting? Plastic bag. All that, it talks. What's the message? Did those who dropped the plastic bag mean that we can destroy your diplomatic mission in Sweden? Are the Swedish authorities behind this? Or are there Ukrainian infiltrators? Nothing is clear at the moment, but let's dive into the depths. Russian authorities reported the situation via their official Telegram channel and therefore what needs to be said at this level is that even though the attack may seem symbolic, it is painting. This is certainly a symbolic attack, even though it may seem symbolic. And this attack illustrates a worrying trend, which is the trivialization of attacks against diplomatic representations. The trivialization of attacks against diplomatic representations. So this is like a symbolic attack to send a message to Russia. What do they want? What should Russia do then? Or does Sweden also want to enter the dance of conflict? Russian-Ukrainian, many questions arise, but we must remember that the climate is already tense between Moscow and Stockholm for a long time, eh? Sweden, which is now a member of NATO, is in a head-on relationship with Russia. A head-on relationship, that is to say. Between the two, it doesn't go well. It's like dog and cat. Well, I'm not talking about today's cats, since today's cats don't eat, or mice, I was going to say it's like mice and cats. That's it. So we have several recent incidents that have taken place between the two states and which have shown a rise in tensions. Whether it is political pressure, whether it is hostile rhetoric, whether it is symbolic provocation. What has just happened is part of the symbolic provocations. Russia has just been provoked in Stockholm, there is. And then the problem is that, and in this context, every Every gesture, even a pocket of paint, takes on a strategic and media significance. That's the problem. What is even worse is that the act that has just been adopted is in violation of the Vienna Conventions on Diplomatic and Consular Relations. International law is violated at this level. Russia has the right to retaliate, and if only if Russia wants it and if Russia exposes the perpetrators, because Russia will investigate, of course, and Russia will come to a conclusion. So that always shows escalation. And I tell you that the current international geopolitics, everything is mixed up. Everything is mixed up. And so the implications and symbols of what just happened. It must be said that this incident is not trivial and is not gratuitous. This is not tolerable under international law. As has been said, this is already a violation of the principle of diplomatic inviolability. It's an attack. According to the principle of diplomatic inviolability and according to the Vienna Convention, an embassy is a protected territory. Therefore, the geographical perimeter occupied by the Russian embassy in Sweden. This geographical perimeter belongs to Russia on the basis of the Headquarters Agreement for Embassies. You already know. So it's up to Russia and the Swedish state to protect this building, protect this geographical area. And if it happens like this, knowing the previous tensions between Sweden and Russia, it means that we are heading towards escalation, and therefore any attack, even symbolic, is a serious violation of international law. Russia will probably demand an explanation. Maybe the Swedish ambassador in Moscow will be summoned, maybe the minister, I don't know, but Russia will carry out investigations. It is the result of these investigations that will further spoil everything. So we are clearly witnessing a hybrid war taking place in Europe. Europe is no longer spared from war for the moment. War is in its hybrid form, in its latent form. So attacks of this type are added to the information warfare and also beautiful attacks throughout the day. And this hybrid war, which aims to weaken the image and security of Russia, even far from the Ukrainian front. So diplomacy becomes an indirect battlefield where each provocation calls for another. That is why we must fear that this provocation will lead to another provocation because Russia will not tolerate it. It will seek to react. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this was the front page of international news. Thank you for sharing it as much as possible. I'll be right back with new information. It was the voice of your only samurai.